So we're talking about scientific knowledge, fiction, and technology in different movies. In Age of Ultron, Avengers, the scientific knowledge that we can find are when Ultron seeks to create an extinction even comparable to one that ended the Cretaceous period and the dinosaurs. The second one is when Ultron's makeshift asteroid will be around 4 trillion kilograms. Then Ultron also needs the speed. The faster the city is going on impact, the closer to extinction humanity gets. The fourth is when human experimentation, the Maximovs. And 5, according to the Tony science, using what's inside Loki's scepter, human banner will be able to create an armor to protect the Earth. And that's it. Now, the fiction aspects. The Ruritonia, that is a fictional Eastern European town that appears in the movie. The vibranium, that is a metal that it's supposed that in the Marvel universe is indestructible. In fact, is the material of what Captain's American shield is made of. Then Thor and the Mjolnir, his hammer. Maximus powers that are telekinesis and super speed. And Vision made by the vibranium and the gem with the power of the Mjolnir. Invented a high-tech cradle that can generate new tissue to patch up wounded crime fighters. Jarvis, that we all know that it's like a Siri, but in Avengers. And the helicarrier, that is a ship that Avengers use to move around. In Interstellar movie, we can find scientific knowledge with the planet where the main character is. Each hour equals 7 years on Earth. The second is in space, there is no sound. A wormhole could open in space, providing a shortcut from one side of the universe to the other. When time is slowed down on the planet that orbits the black hole. And there's a solar-powered drone that stays up for decades. Now, fiction. The first one is the fifth dimension. Then getting to Saturn takes 2 years. That we know that is impossible. 3 worlds are potentially suitable for human habitation. 4, some of the worlds are deep within the black hole's gravitational well. And Gargantua, that it's a wormhole near to Saturn. And finally, technology, that the spaceship, a robot, communication system that appears in that movie, their space suits, and the watch.
Our next movie is Jurassic Park by Steven Spielberg from 1993. We know that in order to create or clone dinosaurs, we would need to have the whole genome. Scientific knowledge is that they mention the paleontology research, which is the study of fossils or life prior to us. We also know that most of the dinosaurs are from the Cretaceous era. DNA explains us that their scientists use dinosaur blood in a mosquito preserved in amber in order to clone and bring back dinosaurs from extinction. In the movie, they also explain us how they mix the DNA from a dinosaur with the DNA of a frog. This frog changes from female to male when there is only female around, which was the case of the dinosaur, T-Rex. Talking about more fiction in this movie, we know that we have never found DNA from a dinosaur. In the movie, they tell us that if you stand still, the T-Rex won't see you, which it isn't true. T-Rex had a really great vision, so if you stand still, it will see you. And finally, in fiction, the Dilophosaurus is incorrectly portrayed as it didn't have the thingy in their neck. Talking about velociraptors, they actually have feathers on them. Then we know now that velociraptors aren't actually the size that they told us they are. They're actually the size of a poodle, especially a mini poodle. And lastly, in technology, we have the iconic Jeep, the electric fences, the gates to enter the park, the computers that have all the vigilance system, and finally the satellite phone.
It is impossible for us to talk about science fiction movies without mentioning Back to the Future. So now we're going to discuss the 5 scientific things about this movie. The first one is that according to the theory of physics, Michio Kaku, traveling in time it is possible. Number 2, traveling back in time is still disputed by scientists. So we cannot discard this one, but we cannot completely accept it. In case of number 1 and number 2 get to be true and we develop the sufficient technology to travel back in time, we might undo some important events. If we ever contact our past self, we might cause a rupture in the space-time structure. The DeLorean is powered by nuclear energy, and scientists say this is the favorite option if we ever get to develop a time machine. Now let's talk about the 5 non-scientific things about the movie. Number 1 is flying cars. In the movie says that by 2015 we already have flying cars, which is not true. Number 2, the DeLorean being powered with organic waste. In one of the movies where the dog comes from the future, he says that he had invented a way for the DeLorean to work with organic waste. And at least by today, this is just science fiction. Number 3, the fashion show in the 2015. It's 2021 and we not dress like that and we didn't dress like that in 2015, so that's science fiction. Number 4, self-lacing shoes. And number 5, hoverboards. A few decades ago, flying things were very popular. Just like flying cars, we have flying skateboards called hoverboards. And finally, we have the 5 technological things we can see in the movie. Number 1 is obviously the time travel machine, the DeLorean. In number 2, we have the video calling at Marty's and Jennifer's house in the future. The number 3 is the calculator watch Marty uses when he goes to 2015. Number 4, when the police takes Jennifer to her house in 2015, they use facial recognition to let her in. Number 5, the future Biff has a lot of robotic parts in his body. And today we can see a lot of those things happening in implants or prosthetics. So those are the 5 technological things we can appreciate in Back to the Future. The next movie we're going to discuss is called Tenet. And the first scientific thing we can get from this movie is particle physics and the behavior of physics. And the behavior of particle actually gets to the very heart of the reason of his time traveling. The second one is entropy. This refers to the measure of disorder in a certain kind of particles. So the higher the disorder in the particles, the higher its entropy, and this is crucial for the time traveling in the movie. And this takes us to number 3. If you could invert the entropy of an object, you could reverse the time flow for that object. In the film, when they revert the entropy of objects, they also need a special suit to read because everything is reversed. Number 5. Speaking in terms of reverting everything, you will also need to think the opposite of what you want to do because if not, it's not gonna work. And for the non-scientific things of this movie, we have number 1, the organization called Tenet. We have the theory of why time travel in this movie works, but at least for us, it is still science fiction. The doomsday weapon that will wipe out past and present is coming in number 2. And number 3 is the ability to go back in time. The fact that in the movie they explain us how traveling back in time works doesn't mean we can apply it to our reality. And number 4 is that Tenet is created in the future. In number 5 we have jumping from buildings. And for finishing my part, I'm going to talk about the 5 technological advances shown in this movie. The first one is the technology invented that allows people to reverse the flow of the entropy of objects and that allows them to travel in time. Number 2 is the type of cars they use in this movie. Number 3, the suits invented for them to breathe when they are traveling back in time. Number 4, the guns. In number 5, the helicopter.